she's looking at it really curiously. And I come out and she goes, there are women in here with penises. And I went, okay, so the lesbian daughter is going to explain to the mom about trans sex workers.
You are listening to What's Next? Conversations with Boomers, and I'm your host, Barb Desmarais. So we are recording in early June, and June happens to be Pride Month. And because this is a podcast for boomers, I have a friend, an actual neighbor, who is a boomer and a gay woman. And I thought, what better person to talk about how the whole LGBTQ plus evolved from as far back as she can remember, sort of what her experience was coming out and how things have evolved over time. So I want to welcome Candace Macpherson onto the program.
Hey, Barb.
Hey! So Candace is actually, we're in the same building, so she's a few floors up, and we bump into each other all the time with our dogs. Yeah.
And cool. It was to your gate now that you fed him.
Yeah, I made the mistake of feeding him, and now he wants to come and visit all the time. But we welcome other dogs here. Anyway, so Candace,
yeah,
tell us, share only what you want to share, but you were born in the early 60s, correct?
Yep, 62.
1962.
Yeah, in Vancouver.
Vancouver.
Yeah, North Van, moved to West Van, and had a great upbringing. My parents were teachers. Well, my mom was a teacher and then stopped working when I was a kid and went back to work when I was 9. Lived right by Hillside High School, which is looked over the water in UBC and Stanley Park. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful place to live.
So tell me, when did you feel that you were attracted to women?
When you asked me if I wanted to do this, I had to think about this because it's not something I
think about
anymore. I can really remember certainly when puberty hit, but I have to think back before that. And I know that when I was a little kid, I had crushes on girls and boys. But I don't even know if I knew the term crushes when I was 7 or 8 or 9. I do remember my neighbor 2 over, David. He had an older sister who was probably, seemed like exotic to me. She was probably 13. And I was 9 or 10 and I had a crush on her. But nothing really hit probably till I was about 15 when I realized that I was attracted to girls, but I also stuffed that away because that is not an okay thing to be.
Right. So say more about that. What was that like for you, having to stuff it away, as you say?
Well, I don't think I thought about it. It wasn't like, oh, this is dangerous, I better hide it. You just intuited this was not a good thing to say, because back then, like in the 70s, anything that was gay or different, the word fag was thrown around all the time.
That's right. When we were talking about this, I forgot about that. Right.
Yeah, about someone who was different, but more particularly if a boy was thought to be gay.
Which, of course, that term wasn't even around.
No, that wasn't even used.
Gay was happy.
Thrown around. Like, it's so weird. And I don't know that much was said about gay women. If it was, then they were a dyke. And then I think what's interesting is around the time we were 16, a girl who had come to our school in grade 10, she came out in grade 11. So that was 1978, 79. And we were all fine with it.
Mm-hmm. What did you, when you say coming out, I mean, we have, people come out all the time, but in the 70s, how was that? Did she sort of, was it a secret among her friends? How did she kind of come out to everybody?
We were all on the same basketball team and we all hung out together, this group of people. So this is bizarre. Well, not bizarre, I guess, for the times, but we discovered that her stepfather had been messing with her.
Oh,
And
no.
so I can't remember if he was arrested or what was going on. And then I don't know if she just said it to someone and then we all knew because it went through the grapevine, but she was our friend. We didn't care. But back then to us, it also made sense because it
Mm-hmm.
happened as opposed to it just being who she is. Um, and in that group of people that I went to school with, there are my really good friend is also gay, and another friend of mine was also gay. There are about four women in that same group. I was never
What?
attracted to any of my friends, by the way. Ever.
Oh,
Yeah, it was always older girls. Yeah.
yeah. So what about coming out to your parents
Oh, that was
and
fun.
your,
Um, I'm being facetious. Um, I came out way later. I didn't act on anything until I was 17. When I was in a very, very brief born again Christian phase. and, it,
oh,
and at a Christian camp. So praise God, I guess. But I was not okay with it. I was so uncomfortable. I felt like it was wrong. Part of it because of what I was going through on the religious end of things, and just I was afraid because I knew it wasn't okay. I was older by that point, and I knew the world didn't like it. So I certainly fell for women along the way, mostly straight, and I didn't come out till I was 29.
so when you say you didn't come out till you were 29, sort of
Yeah,
officially.
officially, because I was so in love with this one person I'd known for a long time, straight, but it was also needed to be said. So, uh, my parents, my dad said he didn't know, which is not possible.
Mhm.
My mom, quote unquote, had dreaded this for a long time.
Had dreaded it
Yeah,
in that she felt that you were, but she
she
didn't
had
want to
known.
know.
So if I look back, I went, oh, so that's why I was no longer allowed to be friends with so and so
Oh,
because we were so close. So I guess I did have a crush on someone my own age, actually, now that I think about it. Um, and that was probably around the age of 11, 12 when that friend got yanked away. Um, but my parents were not asses in any way.
mhm,
As
mhm.
I said to them, I'm your source of shock and I'm also your source of information. So if you have questions for me, ask me, which my mom did. She took me out for lunch, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks later and asked a bunch of questions. Are men totally out of the picture? And I said, no, they're not. I mean, I like men because there's also this belief back then that if you were a lesbian, you hated men,
Mhm.
no matter you just hated men. It's like, no, not the case, not the case, period, and not the case for me. It's really, to me, I said, it's the person I fall for, which
Mhm.
could have given her false hope, but
Mhm.
but and then of course when I ended up with someone for a length of time, they took her in like there was no tomorrow. Like no one had any issue, as did my brother, who is I don't want to say very religious. I guess he is, but I don't think that's how he'd phrase it. But he's a born again Christian and has been for decades. And so
Mhm.
it was a problem. But again, I was I was accepted. I can't say I appreciated the way I was accepted, as in
Mhm.
everybody sins. I'm going, that's insulting. But
Yeah, I mean, how difficult it must have been feeling that you were doing something that was wrong, that was immoral, that was,
it was perverted.
way off the mainstream.
Yeah. And perverted is such a weird word when I hear it now. But, and again, when you asked me to do this, it came to me probably just yesterday. I thought, oh, yeah. When I was, when I was 29, I started therapy for other reasons. In particular, couldn't seem to get my life on track in one way. And that's what I thought I need. I need some help. I need some focus. And I remember meeting with him and sitting with him. And he said, so why are you here? And out of my mouth came, I don't want to know I'm gay.
Oh,
I
oh,
completely forgot that until yesterday.
really?
I forgot that. And I teared up.
Do you think that's pretty common among, well, even people that come out gay now in the 21st century? Because, let's face it, when you're not in the mainstream of anything, life is a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But I don't know about now, to be honest with you. I
Mhm.
think as I told you, I'm a total hermit, so I'm not out there in the world anymore at all. But
Yeah.
when I was working, I retired about a year and a bit ago, a year and a half ago. I had my practice had a lot. I was an RMT. I had practice with a number of gay people and
Registered massage therapist,
yeah,
right?
sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
And one of the people who came was this young lesbian. She was awesome. And I suddenly started to get all these young gay people coming to see me, which was great,
Mm.
and a number of trans people, which I loved. And I loved listening to everybody talk if they were talking because their experiences were so vastly different than what mine
Then
was.
yours, yeah,
Not
yeah.
everybody. Some people had a really hard time. Of my friends, I'm pretty sure there wasn't any issue at all with either one of them. I think their families just, okay, that's what's happening, um, which is relieving.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I didn't really think anyone I knew. I have my friends are just wonderful, and I didn't think I would lose any of them. But you still have that fear, that irrational
Mhm.
fear. And
Am I going to be accepted?
yeah, I don't know if people.
Right.
I'm sure in some small towns and other places in the world. I mean, let's face it, you've got an easy. I shouldn't say this. I'll speak for myself. I had an easier time of it being in the place I was.
Oh, yeah. That huge difference being in a city. I grew up in Prince George,
Right.
and in those years, I only knew of men, and I don't even know what we called them. We certainly didn't call them gay.
No.
I guess we said homosexual, but you just couldn't be. You had to be in the closet. And so the ones, I mean, we sort of came to the conclusion that the group that they had their own social life and their own parties and their own this and that. I think, oh my gosh, how things have changed. But Prince George was one of thousands of small towns through the country. So as you say, being in a city, it's easier, I'm sure.
Yeah. There was a great place on like when I grew up, uh Davie was gay village for gay men, right?
Hmm.
Well, not just gay men, but that's what we saw most of the time. And then Commercial Drive had a lot of the lesbians. So
Lesbian,
there was
yeah.
a place called run by this amazing, fabulous person called Cynthia, who had a secondhand bookstore called the Book Mantle, and had a coffee bar called the Sisters of Addiction Coffee Bar. So I used to go there, and that's where I sort of got to know all sorts of different lesbians, and it was fabulous. It was really fun to go there. And then I'd just bring, friends with me if we wanted to, straight friends. And one of my best friends to this day, one of my absolute heart friends, Lauren, worked there. Very, very, very straight man from Sayward, but he worked at that
Oh,
bar. He's the one I think I told you that back then, like a straight guy would never admit if they thought a man was attractive. And I
mhm.
just think that was so stupid. Like you can tell what beauty is. Like,
Right, right.
what? And Lauren and I were talking about it once. He goes, God, of course I can. I could tell when a guy is good looking. Of course I can. I'm just not physically attracted to them. I don't want to sleep with them. And he took
Mhm.
the seat and he went, I wonder if there's something wrong with me. And I loved it because he was serious.
Yeah.
And that had to be in like mid 90s when he said that. And I thought, I love that. And now that wouldn't surprise me to hear a straight man say that, yeah, that they were attracted or, yeah, anyway.
I just think, who isn't flattered if somebody finds them attractive, regardless of their sexuality? It's really, it's funny. Okay, when did the word gay come about?
I have no
don't
idea.
remember at all.
I don't remember either because you're saying that and I feel like it's always been around, but it hasn't.
Mm.
I don't
No.
think it must. You know what? I don't know my history. Sorry, people out there who do. I feel like it must have been out there because wasn't it known as the gay disease? When AIDS came, it was known as the gay disease.
Right.
That
Which was early 80s, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And which
Yeah.
is something, I mean, we were very well aware of it because I graduated in the 80s, so it was in the news everywhere, and you had Dr. Peter on the TV and
Hmm. Sharing his whole journey having
yeah.
AIDS.
And I didn't know. Oh, I'm sure I did, but didn't know any gay men at that point. And in fact, I myself only lost one friend, and that was in early 90s, probably. No, sorry, late 90s when it happened. And he was a young man. He had got it when he was 19. And I think he passed when he was 33.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, but I didn't know. Whereas people I met in Toronto, I'm a really good friend of mine there. He and his partner were just finishing going to all the funerals they've been going to forever because his partner was 10 years older and he'd lost almost everyone he knew.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so kind of describe how you see the evolution of the community being LGBTQ plus. Am I getting all the letters right sometimes?
Sure. This is the problem. I told you this when you said you wanted to talk to me. I said, I don't know if I'm your best bet, Barb, because
Well, you are, because I think you don't participate in the walks, the marches, the events.
Not anymore. I went to parades. I was mostly in the straight world. Like when I came out, I was working in film, so obviously a lot of gay people, but mostly straight. My friends were mostly straight. I guess for me, once I was out, I was out. No one else in my family is gay yet. There are some younger ones, and I don't know if any of them will be. The only way I know it is by people I have met who were younger. I know someone who's 20 years younger than me who had been kicked out of the house briefly when she came out. I don't know how she did end up going back. I don't know how soon. But most of the stories I have, they're not, thank goodness, they're not tragic.
That's really good, because there are a lot of tragic stories.
Yeah, there was someone who was at that Sisters of Addiction coffee bar who, I can't remember where they were from. Also a small town, I think. And their mom wanted to put them into electroshock therapy.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Yeah, didn't happen. But in terms of the evolution, all I can tell you is from when I was working with those young people in my practice, they were all loud and proud and activists. Every last one.
Which you never have been. Not that you're not proud, but but you don't identify as an activist.
If there's something to stand up for, like, a rally for whatever may be going on. I was actually in Toronto when almost 2 years ago, I think, down at the art gallery, there had been there were going to be around the country all sorts of anti-SOGI rallies, and there ended up being counter protests, and there was a huge one in Vancouver with everyone, and I would have been there in a nanosecond. Yeah, that kind of thing. I'll be there for. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. And now, gosh, we have non-binary, which was never, ever, was never a word in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Yep. When did that come in there? Early 2000s?
Honestly, I don't remember non-binary. I don't remember when it came out. I'd say early 2000s, but
early 2000s.
Anyone fact checking?
So non-binary, and now we all know or know of somebody who is non-binary. And I have to say, Candace, I have such a hard time with it. Not that I'm judging it, but to remember to refer to the person as they. I have a sign language student who is non-binary, and they and their mother come on together. And when they are not there, we're talking about them.
Yeah,
I'm always forgetting, and then I'm constantly apologizing. And I think, with certainly millennials, the Gen Zers, that I think, please understand how new this is for us. This is so, we're trying. Just we're trying. We really are.
I don't think if someone realizes that you're trying, I would be surprised if they're judging you for it. They can see that you're trying. Great. Everybody makes mistakes. And if you're upfront about it, and you don't have to be too, I mean, obviously you're saying you're apologizing, great, but you don't have to go overboard, because it's just like, write it on your hand if you need to.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But also you're not in a community that is used to it.
No, I'm not. Not at all. And of course, in my community, they is plural. They is
it is a mind change. But if you just decide that, okay, I'm going to remember this, then you'll be okay. We can get stuck in that, but they is plural. Not anymore.
I know there's been so much change in our lifetime. I mean, radical. I'm in my 70s. So, what was normal when I was growing up and well into the 80s, that's gone.
Yeah.
Well, sexuality, the fluidity of sexuality, because what I'm learning now is people are going from straight to gay, gay to straight. And I was telling you the other day, I've seen at least 4 now on TikTok or something. I'm detransitioning. I think about my parents, of course, who've deceased, how they would wrap their head all around this.
Listen,
So,
my mom passed almost 13 years ago. She was in a residence because her MS was quite advanced. And I can't believe I'm telling you this story, but she called me up one day. Feel free to cut this if it makes no sense. But she called me up one day, and which was weird because she didn't really use the phone very much anymore. And I thought something was wrong. And I said, "Hi." She goes, "Hi, this is really strange, but I'm wondering if I can ask you to do something." I went, "Of course." She said, "I wonder if you can get me one of those magazines, like Playboy, except for women." And I went, my mom is 80 at this point.
yeah, yeah.
81. And I went, like Playgirl? And she went, "Yeah." And I went, "Sure, no problem. I don't even know where I'd get one." And she goes, "They sell magazines." I'm like, "Okay." Anyway, I got one, and I left the room briefly, and I came back, and she's looking at it really curiously. And I come out, and she goes, there are women in here with penises." And I went, "Okay, so the lesbian daughter is going to explain to the mom about trans sex workers." And because she was looking in the back.
Uh-huh.
And so I actually told her, "Do you remember telling me about uh, trans people when I was young?" And granted, that was transvestites, but we'd had conversation about trans. And I don't even know where people who are transvestites come into the scenario now. They were not necessarily transgendered. They were not necessarily gay. Anyway, I loved that I was talking to my 81-year-old mother. That, and then I brought up again my friend in Toronto with her who had transitioned, and she was like, "Right." So depending on who they are, I guess there can be an openness, even though she wasn't that thrilled with the fact that I was gay. But again, to me, like she said a couple of insulting things on occasion, to which I would get ticked, but I would catch myself and think, how does she treat me? How does she treat, this was a long time ago, so how does she treat my partner? Really well. You think what you think. Of course you can. You can have your feelings and your beliefs, just like I can have mine about X, Y, or Z. But how is the person treating me?
Please respect me. I will respect you and your choices. Yes.
Yeah. And I can only do the same.
This is what it's all about. I mean, I think, thank goodness, even though, as I say, for us, I was born in the 50s, there's just been, an enormous change that we have to gradually adjust to. I just think we are now in a world, and this isn't all over the world, but moving in a direction where people can be who they are. This is, be your authentic self, whatever that is.
Or then you have the backlash, i.e. to the south of us.
Oh, I know. Well, it's scary. We're in 2025, and that's a whole other conversation. Oh my gosh.
I think I told you too that my dad said that they had a couple of gay friends, and I thought, okay, is he just making this up? Because I know your friends, and there's nobody's gay. And so I guess it was maybe people he worked with or something. And he said they 2 guys have been together for a long time. And his comment was, but the good thing is they keep it quiet, that you'd never know.
Oh, that's the good thing.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, not so much the good thing.
Right. Well, that is his generation. That would have been, that's what you did.
Had to. Yeah.
So another term that we mentioned that this a while back, that the term queer was, in our generation, that was, oh, that's queer. That's weird. And now queer, give us the definition, because people ask me a lot, what does queer mean? What?
No sorry, I cannot do this for you. I've said this my whole life because it's always confused me. Because again, at the Sisters of Addiction coffee bar, you would have, there was a very strong, beautiful femme woman. And again, that we had, femme and butch and soft butch and blah, blah, blah. Back then, again, I don't know how often that is used. And she said, I'm a diehard lesbian and I'm queer. And I'd ask her repeatedly to tell me what she meant by that, because she is 10 or 11 years younger than me. And
so she said she was lesbian and queer.
Yeah. And this is back in the, it's like 93 or something like that. And I'm like, okay, what? And I've never got it right. So would I say I'm queer? Sure. Just because it involves, I'm a gay woman. I'd say I'm queer, but that would be my interpretation of it.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest with you, the queerest person I know, again, by my definition, is a straight cis man.
Oh.
Into a great deal of stuff. And
and that's what makes him queer.
He would say he's queer too. He'd say he's queer too. It has nothing, does it have to do with his sexuality? Yes, even though he's straight. Would other people agree with me? I don't know.
Well, even in the straight world, there's variations of people are into all sorts of different things, with an opposite sex partner. And
if you say the queer community, it's everybody.
Everybody, okay.
Everybody, but I wouldn't include straight, interestingly enough.
Mm-hmm. So queer, the term queer is widely used to basically encompass any individuals whose sexual orientation or gender identity is outside of like the norms. And I'm using air quotes. So if you're not heterosexual or cisgender, then you fall under that definition of queer. But some people nowadays prefer to use the word queer rather than gay. Some like
or bi.
Queer.
They use queer. They say queer instead of bisexual.
I feel like bisexual still use bisexuals. Mainly, I feel like the people who use the term queer, a lot of them tend to be females or female identifying or non-binary.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Ask.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting world, and I think that it is up to us to embrace everybody, who they are, what's important. Well, yeah, what's important is that we respect each other, and having a different opinion or a different lifestyle doesn't make the person wrong or right. It's just what it is.
You know what? I'll stop you on that one. It's not a lifestyle.
Well, I'm just speaking in general.
That's used a lot.
In this world, we're specifically talking about the LGBTQ community, but outside of that community, there are also people who have very different lifestyle choices than we might have. And
but that's outside of their sexuality. So,
yes.
Say being gay is a lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle. I have more in common with a lot of straight people. That like a lifestyle is, would you rather go out to a club, or would you rather stay home and have a nice meal with someone? Do you want to go to theater? Do you want to go bungee jumping? That's lifestyle. Not who you sleep with or are attracted to.
Right. Yeah. Maybe lifestyle was a poor choice.
No, but it's understandable because it's used all the time, but it's driven me nuts for decades.
So I'm glad to. Well, let's just say we live in a world where there are all kinds of different life choices that people have. If those choices don't hurt you, and those people are respectful and kind and genuine, let's embrace everybody.
Yeah. Also, most of this for a lot of, is not choice. I'm not gay by choice. I'm gay because I'm gay.
Right. Okay, I see what. Yeah. Okay, that was a bad choice. That was a bad word. No, of course, nobody chooses.
And it's just a matter of, wait, what is it? I'm just gay because I'm gay.
Right. I think I mean, my understanding is no, we do not choose our sexuality. If we are attracted to the same sex, we are. That's not something you choose. I think again, I'm talking kind of in general terms, and I'm putting the LGBT. This is one of many different kinds of communities that we have in the world now. That let's embrace people's the people who they are, people who they generally are. I mean, yeah.
It would be lovely.
Do you think we're moving in that direction, Candace?
Well, considering I've done too much doom scrolling at this moment, I wouldn't say.
Yeah,
so.
I knew you were going to say that.
My world is really, you can only look at your world, the world in general. I think it will. Oh, that sounds really doomy. I think will always be a fight. I think
Yeah. Well, it sounds like
suppressed.
the United States has gone backwards by about 100 years right now. So, what?
Yeah.
Oh, what is going to, or how things are going to end up there? Who knows?
Very right.
It is. It is. Yeah. Doom scrolling. Yeah, I do too much of that too, and it's depressing and discouraging and all sorts of things.
I
Okay.
Calvin and Hobbes and start reading it. Cleanse my brain palette.
Yeah. Okay, Candace, is there anything that you want to add that we haven't brought up today in this conversation?
I don't think so, except because there's been some heavy and sad and certain stuff said that the people I know that are gay, and this sounds stupid coming out of my mouth now because it's just so the way things are in my world, that are for the most part happy and content and just living their lives. Out, proud, just living their lives. They're doing well. They're thriving.
Well, that's certainly my experience of any gay person I know. They've got great lives.
And grateful for it, because we know how many are not. Yeah. And I'm so grateful for that client of mine. She was awesome for bringing all those young people into my space. It was very, very heartening.
Well, you get because they knew you were an attentive listener, and people want to be heard and accepted, and you provided that.
Well, I'm grateful to, but it's also just knowing how they were living their young lives. They were 22s, 20 up to 26s or so. It was just like, good for you. Good for you. Taking no guff, as my another generation would have said. Yeah.
Taking no guff. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Mela? Is there anything else that we would like to add to this little conversation?
So a question for you, Candace. Do you think that the school system should include queer history in the classroom?
Oh, good question, Mela.
I don't see why not. I could see why a lot of people would argue it. They have a hard enough time with the fact of sexual orientation and gender identity being mentioned in a school, and thinking it's an agenda, which blows my mind. Do I think history, if it's relevant, yes, I think it should be. I mean, if it's a specific course, I think they'd have a really hard time with it. But of course, I'd be into anyone knowing about the contributions of gay people. Absolutely. Or their struggles. Hello.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Our struggles, I guess I should say. My struggle was not the same as other people's, then or now.
Right.
But yeah, needless to say, anti-SOGI groups I'm not a fan.
Yeah. And sometimes I wonder, like, there are a lot of young people, and I'm talking like the Gen Alphas, like they're like 10 and perhaps younger, that are living their truth, and that they know in their bones, know in their fiber that they are either queer or trans and want to go through that transition, etc. And I just wonder, like, growing up in this era of, there's queer media, there's so much content of queer personalities to kind of look up to. And for those people who didn't have that growing up, there's this sense of like, they always say like representation matters because then you see yourselves in these characters. So like, I feel like knowing the history of what your predecessors had to go through.
Representation absolutely matters.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there was anything on TV when I was a kid. I think when I was in 78 or 80 or something like that. No, I was still in high school. So 78, maybe 79, Bette Midler's The Rose came out.
Right.
And two friends and I saw that about 9 times. Only because we got to see her kiss a woman.
Oh,
because you'd never see that in a million years.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I mean, when I was growing up in the 60s, you certainly would not see same-sex couples on TV. Absolutely not. But even married couples didn't even sleep in the same bed.
So weird.
So weird. So weird.
They'd flipping if they saw what happens now. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like this is the change has just been radical. Yeah.
I think for children who are young, Mela, like the ages you were saying, if they have a supportive home life, makes, obviously will be everything.
Right.
And help navigate. I do have a really good friend of mine who lives one of my best friends who lives in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Her child transitioned, I won't get the timing right, but went through the whole thing. We talked about them probably being non-binary when they were about 11.
Okay.
And then they went to being a lesbian and then went to realizing, no, I'm trans. And he transitioned from she to he. I think in grade 12.
Right.
So was 8, I think or maybe when he was 18.
Right.
I can't remember. Around there. But astoundingly, living in Niagara-on-the-Lake, of all places, there was a school just around there, somewhere outside of it. It's an artsy school full of gay and trans people.
Right.
So his experience was awesome.
Right.
And I think, how do we get that here?
Right.
How do we get that here? But at the same time, another friend who has 3 sons, this was a while ago because they're all out of high school now. The middle child, I think, had a group of friends who'd been together forever. And there was a girl was in this group of guys and transitioned. When I say transition, was not on testosterone yet, but came back and was dressed in the form that he knew he was.
Right.
And not one of this group of guys had an issue. And this was probably, I don't know, 8 years ago. And I remember my friend,
is pretty recent.
And I was like, my heart was just like, oh my God, like this is so great. She goes, yeah, no one gives a crap.
Right.
It's fabulous. Do I know if I'm somewhere in the school? Probably, or maybe, but I think that if anything was said, they would have a group of people to deal with who wouldn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's positivity for that. I think for me, I carried my own fear about someone I love transitioning, about what that could mean for them, like hyper aware.
Right.
Mama bear fear, rather than living in the world this child is living in that is accepting of it.
Right.
And he's having a good time, but I've got, decades ahead of knowing what can happen. But yeah, I've had decades of knowing what could happen to women. And while it's certainly happened to people I know, it has not happened to everyone I know, or the majority of people I know. And therefore, I have to change my thought process to come from, like, I'm still going to have my fear. I'm not stupid. That's not going to go away. But to be in a more positive light and live in that place, that things may be tough and things will come up, but in generally not being Pollyanna about it. There's so much support and resources that he'll be okay. He'll be okay.
That's key, isn't it? Is having a supportive network. Because somehow you can manage the challenges a little bit easier if you know that you've got a core group of supportive people who accept and love you and are there for you.
And which will also help them be around for people they see struggling. Well, they can
Exactly.
people struggling if you just have the ability to reach out yourself because you've learned how to.
Yeah.
I sort of tangented there, but there you go.
Candace, thank you so much for coming on and being so open and with your story and giving us lots of insights. Yeah. So do I say happy Pride to you or just...
I take it. Thank you.
Happy Pride. Yeah.
Happy Pride right back.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks again.
Thank you
so much. So we want to remind everybody who's listening, and we keep forgetting too, that we are now on YouTube. So you can listen to this conversation audio only. You can also watch us on YouTube. Also, this is episode 1 of season 12.
I'm honored.
The guest of honor to launch a brand new season. We can't believe that we've been going this long, honestly, Candace.
That's so great. I love
How
it.
did we get here? And it's just conversations like this.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's like sitting in your living room, but that's exactly what I'm doing. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah.